The DNA results were supposed to solve one problem. Instead, they created three. The nurse stepped into the private waiting room on Euclid Avenue with a thin white envelope in her hand. Julian Smith stood first. Isaac Smith stood second. And when their eyes met, everything in the room shifted. Because neither of them knew the other was there. And neither of them knew they were about to hear the same answer. Across the room, Riley Lewis felt her stomach drop. Not because of the pregnancy. Not because of the test. But because the two men staring at each other looked almost identical. Same height. Same jawline. Same controlled posture. Same last name. Smith. Julian's voice was calm. Too calm. What are you doing here? Isaac's response was colder. I was about to ask you the same thing. The nurse blinked between them. You're both here for Riley Lewis. Silence. Thick. Violent. Unforgiving. That was the moment Riley realized something worse than being exposed. She hadn't just been dating two men. She had been dating two brothers. And she hadn't known. Before we go any further, drop in the comments where you're watching from. City, country, wherever you are. Let's see how far this story reaches. Because this is just the beginning. 3 months earlier, Riley Lewis didn't believe in choosing too early. At 26, living in a luxury apartment off Euclid Avenue in downtown Cleveland, she had learned one thing. Options were power. And Riley liked power. She met Julian first. Black tie charity event. Glass chandelier lighting. Soft piano music. Julian Smith was the kind of man rooms adjusted for. Old money confidence. Measured speech. A billionaire by inheritance and expansion, real estate, tech acquisitions, private equity. He didn't flirt aggressively. He observed. When he finally approached her, he said one sentence. You look like you're bored. She smiled. I am. That was how it started. Dinner turned into weekends in Chicago. Weekends turned into late nights in Cleveland. Late nights turned into quiet consistency. Julian didn't chase. He selected. And Riley felt chosen. But then she met Isaac. Different setting. Different energy. Private rooftop opening for a biotech launch party. Isaac Smith didn't command rooms the way Julian did. He disrupted them. Self-made billionaire. Bioengineering patents. Venture capital dominance. Faster. Sharper. Less patient. He didn't study Riley. He challenged her. You don't seem impressed, he told her, watching her scan the skyline. I'm not. That made him smile. Isaac wasn't careful. He was intense. Where Julian was controlled, Isaac was kinetic. And Riley did something reckless. She didn't pick. She compartmentalized. Julian got the elegant dinners. Isaac got the electric nights. Julian asked about her childhood. Isaac asked about her ambition. Julian touched her like she was breakable. Isaac kissed her like she wasn't. Neither of them mentioned family much. Julian rarely talked about his personal life. Isaac never did. And Riley never asked the right questions. Because if she had, she would have known. 2 months in, the first crack appeared. Julian canceled dinner. Family obligation, he said. Same night, Isaac rescheduled drinks. Family dinner ran late. She didn't connect it. Why would she? Cleveland was big enough. The Smith name was common enough. Until it wasn't. Back in the hospital waiting room. Julian's eyes never left Isaac. Why are you here? Isaac didn't answer him. He looked at Riley. How long? Her throat tightened. How long what? How long have you been seeing him? Julian's jaw flexed. Seeing who? The nurse interrupted softly. Gentlemen, perhaps we should focus on the test results. No one moved. No one blinked. Riley felt something unfamiliar crawl up her spine. Not guilt. Fear. Because this wasn't just emotional fallout. This was power colliding with power. And she was standing between it. 3 weeks before the hospital. The nausea started first. Then the fatigue. Then the realization. Positive. Riley sat on her bathroom floor staring at the pregnancy test like it had betrayed her. Timing blurred. Both men had been present. Both men had been consistent. Both men had believed they were exclusive. Her first instinct wasn't confession. It was calculation. Who would react better? Julian valued order. Isaac valued loyalty. Neither valued deception. She told Julian first. He didn't panic. He sat down. Are you sure? Yes. He exhaled once. If it's mine, we'll handle it properly. Properly. Structured. Controlled. Then she told Isaac. His reaction was different. Okay. Just that. Okay. Not because he wasn't affected. But because he had already started planning. If it's mine, I'll take care of you. Take care. Not properly. Not structured. But protectively. Two different promises. Both dangerous. Back in the hospital. Julian stepped closer to Isaac. You're here for a paternity test. It wasn't a question. Isaac's stare hardened. She told you it might be yours. Riley's pulse pounded. Julian looked at her. Slowly. Might. There it was. Microshift. The word might changed everything. Isaac's voice dropped. Who else is there, Riley? Her silence answered louder than words. Julian let out a breath that wasn't anger. It was realization. How many? She swallowed. 2. The nurse froze. Isaac laughed once. Short. Disbelieving. You're telling me we're both here because you couldn't choose. Choose. That word again. But neither of them had chosen her officially either. They had assumed. And Riley had let them. Then the nurse finally opened the envelope. Ms. Lewis, both samples have been processed. Julian's eyes flicked to Isaac again. Only now. Something clicked. Isaac saw it too. The resemblance. The mirrored posture. The same watch brand. The same ring their father wore. Isaac's expression shifted first. You've got to be kidding me. Julian went still. Dead still. What? Isaac's voice was almost amused now. Of all the women in Cleveland. Riley's stomach dropped. What are you talking about? Julian didn't look at her. He was looking at Isaac. You didn't. Isaac let out a breath. Oh, I did. And then, finally. He looked at Riley. You've been seeing my brother. The word brother detonated in the room. Riley felt the walls tilt. Brother. 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 Julian closed his eyes for a second. Controlled. Contained. Then opened them again. Tell me this is a coincidence. Isaac's smirk disappeared. It's not. The nurse cleared her throat again. Should I read the results? No one answered. Because something bigger than the test had just been revealed. Riley wasn't standing between two men anymore. She was standing between two billionaire brothers. Who hadn't spoken in nearly a year. And now. They were here. Because of her. And the envelope was still unopened. The nurse finally spoke. Neither of you are the father. Silence. No relief. No celebration. Just impact. Julian blinked once. Isaac's expression went blank. Riley's mind spun. If it wasn't Julian. If it wasn't Isaac. Then. Who? Julian turned to her slowly. Is there someone else we should know about? That question hit harder than the results. Because now. This wasn't about rivalry. This was about credibility. Isaac leaned back against the wall. Almost impressed. You managed to play both of us. Not angry. Not yet. Just calculating. Julian's tone was quieter. More dangerous. You lied. Riley shook her head. I didn't know you were brothers. Isaac's jaw tightened. But you knew you were lying. Microshift again. The power had moved. Not between the brothers. Away from her. The nurse quietly excused herself. The door closed. Now it was just the three of them. Euclid Avenue traffic hummed outside. Inside, war was forming. Julian adjusted his cufflinks. Composure returning. This conversation isn't finished. Isaac pushed off the wall. No. It's not. Riley's voice came out smaller than she intended. What happens now? Julian looked at his brother. Isaac looked back. Years of rivalry sitting unspoken between them. Then Julian answered. Now. A pause. Controlled. Cold. We figure out who the father is. Isaac's eyes flicked to Riley. And why she thought she could outplay us. And just like that, the DNA test was no longer the biggest problem. Because somewhere in Cleveland, there was a third man. And neither brother liked losing. Especially not to someone they couldn't see. The hospital room didn't explode. It went cold. That was worse. Julian adjusted his suit jacket like they were in a boardroom, not standing in the wreckage of a shared humiliation. Isaac checked his watch. A habit. A tell. Julian noticed. You knew, Julian said quietly. Isaac didn't blink. About you. No. About her. A beat. Isaac's jaw tightened. I knew she was ambitious. Riley flinched. Not because it was cruel. Because it was accurate. Outside, Euclid Avenue traffic rolled on like nothing historic had just happened. Inside, a silent competition reignited. Because this wasn't just about Riley anymore. It was about which brother had been fooled harder. And neither Smith brother tolerated losing. Start talking, Julian said, eyes on Riley. Who else? She folded her arms defensively. There isn't some list. Isaac's tone sharpened. There's always a list. Micro hook. Julian stepped closer. When did you find out you were pregnant? 3 weeks ago. And you didn't consider there might be someone else? Her hesitation was small. But it was there. Isaac saw it first. Oh, there it is. Riley's pulse spiked. I dated before you. Julian's voice stayed even. Before. Not during. Silence. The kind that answers questions. Isaac exhaled slowly. You overlapped. It wasn't jealousy in his voice. It was insult. Riley snapped. You both assumed exclusivity without asking. Julian's gaze hardened. I don't assume. Status shift. For the first time, Riley felt outmatched. Because these weren't just wealthy men. They were strategic men. And she had underestimated the difference. 2 hours later. Private conference room. Julian's assistant had secured it within minutes. Because when a Smith brother requested space, doors opened. Isaac sat across the table. Riley at the far end. Julian stood by the window overlooking Euclid Avenue. We're handling this efficiently, Julian said. Isaac smirked. Since when have we handled anything together? Julian didn't look at him. Since she made it our problem. Microshift again. Riley was no longer the prize. She was the liability. Isaac leaned forward. Let's rewind. 3 weeks ago you find out you're pregnant. Timeline. Riley inhaled slowly. There was a night in late March. Julian's eyes narrowed slightly. March 18th, he asked. Isaac's head turned sharply. That's specific. Julian finally faced him. Family Foundation Gala. Isaac's expression shifted. You left early. So did you. The room went still. Riley's stomach dropped. They were both there. Same event. Different entrances. Different exits. Same night. And she had seen them both. But at different times. Her throat dried. You were both in Chicago that night. Julian's stare sharpened. How do you know that? She regretted answering instantly. Isaac laughed under his breath. This is incredible. Julian's voice lowered. You scheduled us. Not a question. A realization. Riley's mind raced. She hadn't meant to orchestrate it. But she had kept both options open. Julian at 7. Isaac at 11. Same dress. Different elevator. And neither had known. Until now. Isaac leaned back slowly. I should be furious. Julian nodded once. You should. But I'm not. That caught everyone off guard. Isaac's eyes locked on Riley. I'm impressed. That was worse. Microhook escalation. Julian's phone buzzed. He ignored it. It buzzed again. Isaac's phone buzzed at the same time. They both glanced down. Same caller ID. Dad. Neither answered. Riley looked between them. You haven't told him. Julian's tone was sharp. There's nothing to tell. Isaac's expression darkened. Yet. Because now there was. A public scandal between billionaire brothers. A woman who played both. An unknown third man. And a pregnancy. That kind of story didn't stay private. Not in Cleveland. Not with their last name. Who else? Julian asked again. Riley exhaled. There was someone before March. Isaac's eyes flicked up. How long before? February. Julian's mind moved quickly. Name. She hesitated. And that hesitation told them everything. Isaac stood. Name. Daniel. Julian's stare sharpened. Daniel who? Daniel Harper. Isaac froze. Julian didn't. He already knew. Harper Biotech. Isaac's biggest competitor. Microdetonation. Isaac let out a disbelieving laugh. You're joking. Riley's face paled. You know him. Julian answered calmly. Oh, she really doesn't know. Isaac ran a hand through his hair. Daniel Harper isn't just some guy. Julian finished the thought. He's the reason Isaac lost the Ohio expansion contract. Riley's heartbeat pounded in her ears. She hadn't connected the dots. She hadn't realized Daniel was that Harper. Isaac's tone dropped. Tell me you're not serious. It was one date, she whispered. One date, Isaac repeated. Julian's voice was colder. Did you sleep with him? Her silence lasted too long. Isaac slammed his palm on the table. Unbelievable. Not jealousy. Not heartbreak. Strategic fury. Because now this wasn't a romantic mess. It was corporate exposure. If Daniel Harper was the father. This was war on multiple fronts. Microtension spike. Isaac paced once. Does Harper know about the pregnancy? No. Julian stepped forward. He will. Riley's eyes widened. You can't tell him. Isaac stopped pacing. Why not? Because I don't even know if it's his. Julian's gaze was sharp. But it isn't ours. And that mattered more. Isaac pulled out his phone. Julian didn't stop him. Riley did. Wait. Isaac looked at her. For what? She swallowed. You're not thinking straight. Isaac's voice went dangerously calm. I'm thinking very clearly. Julian interjected smoothly. Calling Harper makes us reactive. Isaac paused. Julian continued. We verify first. Isaac studied him. Then nodded once. Riley realized something terrifying. The rivalry was back. But now. It was aligned. Against her. That night. Riley sat alone in her apartment off Euclid Avenue. Phone in hand. Daniel's contact stared back at her. She hadn't seen him since February. Casual. Brief. Uncomplicated. He had texted once after. She never responded. Because Julian had already felt safer. And Isaac had already felt more exciting. Now. Neither felt safe. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Riley Lewis. Yes. Daniel Harper would like to speak with you. Her blood went cold. I didn't. His voice came on the line. Smooth. Controlled. Riley. Her stomach flipped. How did you get this number? He chuckled softly. You underestimate how small Cleveland is. Micro hook. You're pregnant. It wasn't a question. Her silence answered. Daniel continued. And you've taken 2 other paternity tests already. Her grip tightened. How do you know that? Pause. Then. Because when billionaires walk into a private hospital together, people talk. Ice spread through her veins. He knew about Julian. He knew about Isaac. Which meant this wasn't private anymore. Daniel's voice lowered slightly. If the child is mine, we need to handle this carefully. Handle. That word again. Different men. Same tone of control. What do you mean carefully? She asked. He didn't answer directly. Have you told the Smith brothers about me? Her hesitation was enough. Daniel inhaled slowly. I thought so. Daniel, it was one night. I know. His voice didn't change. That's what makes it interesting. Interesting. Riley's pulse spiked. Are you saying you wanted this? Another pause. Then. I'm saying nothing involving the Smith family is ever accidental. Click. The line went dead. Riley stared at her phone. Something had shifted again. This wasn't just about her poor decisions. There were undercurrents she didn't see. And now. 3 powerful men were connected by one possibility. Her doorbell rang. She froze. No one was supposed to be here. It rang again. Slower. Intentional. She walked to the door carefully. Checked the screen. Isaac. Alone. When she opened it, his expression was unreadable. Did he call you? Her breath caught. How did you? He called me too. Micro-explosion. Riley's chest tightened. What did he say? Isaac stepped inside without waiting. He said congratulations. Julian's voice came from behind him. And he said he looks forward to meeting his son. Riley turned sharply. Julian was standing in the hallway. Calm. Controlled. Deadly serious. She hadn't even heard him arrive. Isaac shut the door behind them. The apartment suddenly felt smaller. Daniel wasn't waiting for confirmation. He was claiming territory. Julian looked at Riley evenly. Tell me something. Her voice barely worked. What? He held her gaze. Did you think none of us would compare notes? Silence. Isaac's tone cut in. You didn't just miscalculate. A pause. You misjudged. The power in the room had fully shifted. And somewhere in Cleveland, Daniel Harper was smiling. Because if the child was his, he had just tied himself permanently to the Smith family. And if it wasn't, he had still ignited a war. The apartment felt like a negotiation room. 3 powerful men. 1 woman in the center. And a child that might belong to none of them. Julian didn't sit. Isaac didn't pace. They both watched Riley. That was new. Daniel had just called them. Separately. Confidently. Claiming territory before proof. That meant one thing. He believed he had leverage. Julian finally spoke. When is your next appointment? Next week, Riley whispered. Isaac nodded once. We'll move it. She blinked. Move it where? Julian answered calmly. Private lab. Discreet. Controlled. You don't control this, she snapped. Isaac's eyes sharpened. Actually, we do. Status shift complete. She had started this thinking she held options. Now she had none. 2 days later. Private medical facility outside Cleveland. No press. No leaks. No whispers. Julian arranged it. Isaac funded it. Neither said that part out loud. Riley sat between them in the waiting room. For the first time, they weren't competing. They were aligned. Against uncertainty. Against Harper. Against humiliation. Julian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it. Then at Isaac. He's here. Riley's heart slammed. Daniel Harper walked in alone. No security. No assistant. Dark suit. Controlled posture. He didn't look threatened. He looked entertained. His eyes landed on Riley first. Then Isaac. Then Julian. Well, Daniel said smoothly. This is efficient. Isaac stood. Julian remained seated. Different tactics. Same tension. You're early, Isaac said. Daniel smiled faintly. I prefer clarity. Julian's voice was calm. You prefer leverage. Daniel didn't deny it. Micro-hook. Riley watched the three men. And finally understood something she hadn't before. She hadn't been juggling options. She had been stepping into a battlefield. And she didn't even know the rules. The nurse called her name. The final blood work began. This time there would be no confusion. No assumptions. Just data. 30 minutes later, they were back in the private room. 4 chairs. 4 controlled expressions. 1 envelope. The nurse hesitated before handing it over. Julian didn't take it. Isaac didn't either. Daniel did. Slowly. Deliberately. He opened it. Scanned it once. His eyebrow lifted slightly. That subtle reaction hit harder than any explosion. Isaac stepped forward. Well. Daniel looked at Riley first. Then at the brothers. Then back at the paper. And then he said the last thing any of them expected. It's not mine. Silence. Julian's expression didn't change. Isaac's jaw flexed. Riley blinked. What? Daniel handed the paper to Julian. Negative. Julian scanned it. Passed it to Isaac. Verified. Triple confirmed. Not Julian. Not Isaac. Not Daniel. The room felt unreal. Riley's voice came out faint. That's not possible. Daniel studied her. How certain are you about February? Her mind raced. Dates. Moments. Blurred nights. She shook her head. No. I would remember. Isaac's tone was ice. Would you? That hit. Because now even her memory felt unreliable. Julian leaned back slowly. Controlled. Analyzing. If it isn't any of us. Daniel finished calmly. Then you have a problem none of us created. Power shift again. Daniel stood. Buttoned his jacket. This has been illuminating. Isaac's voice stopped him. You're enjoying this. Daniel didn't smile. I'm relieved. Then he looked at Riley. You may want to reconsider how you calculate risk. And he left. No drama. No anger. Just exit. The door closed. Now it was just the brothers. And Riley. Again. But this time the tension was different. No rivalry. No jealousy. Just clarity. Isaac exhaled slowly. So who? Riley pressed her hands into her temples. I don't know. Julian stood. You do. She looked up sharply. No. You do, he repeated calmly. You just don't want to say it. Her breathing quickened. There was one more night. One she had buried. Because it didn't fit the narrative. Because it wasn't strategic. Because it wasn't powerful. It was reckless. It was simple. It was human. 3 weeks before she met Julian. Before Isaac. Before Daniel. A bartender on Euclid Avenue. After too many drinks. No last name. No follow-up. No calculation. Just impulse. Her stomach dropped. Julian saw it. There it is. Isaac's voice lowered. You remember. Tears filled her eyes. It was nothing. Julian's response was quiet. Nothing has consequences. And that was the final collapse. Not dramatic. Not explosive. Just truth. Isaac looked at his brother. For the first time that day, there was no rivalry in his expression. Just something older. Familiar. We almost tore each other apart over this. Julian nodded once. Almost. A small truce passed between them. Unspoken. Temporary. but real. Riley looked between them. So that's it. Isaac's eyes met hers. What were you expecting? Anger. Revenge. Julian adjusted his cufflinks again. A habit when resetting. You miscalculated. Isaac continued. You assumed control. Julian finished. You didn't have it. Not cruel. Not shouting. Just final. Riley swallowed. So you're both just walking away? Isaac paused. Then. Yes. Julian added. We don't invest in volatility. That word landed. Volatility. She wasn't a partner. She was risk exposure. And billionaires don't tolerate uncontrolled risk. Julian headed for the door. Isaac followed. Riley's voice cracked. You both said you'd take care of me. Isaac stopped. Looked back once. That was before we understood the numbers. Then he left. Euclid Avenue was loud when Riley stepped outside alone. Cars. Sirens. City noise. Life moving. Unbothered. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. But she did. Hey, this is Mark. Her breath caught. The bartender. I heard through a friend you were looking for me. Her heart pounded. How did you? Small city, he laughed lightly. Different tone. Different energy. No power. No strategy. Just, normal. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. For the first time in months, there was no calculation. No comparison. No status. Just consequence. I'm pregnant, she said finally. Silence on the other end. Then. Oh. Not controlled. Not strategic. Just human. Are you sure it's mine? She closed her eyes. Yes. A long pause. Then. Okay. That word again. But this time. It wasn't about power. It was about responsibility. We'll figure it out, he said. Simple. No leverage. No territory. No war. And for the first time since the hospital, Riley felt something steady. Not exciting. Not powerful. But real. Across the city, in separate penthouses, the Smith brothers stood at separate windows. Looking at the same skyline. Neither had won. Neither had lost. But both had learned something. Not every situation is a negotiation. Not every woman is an investment. And not every game is worth playing. Julian's phone buzzed. Isaac's did too. Same message. From their father. Dinner. Tomorrow. No excuses. Julian smirked slightly. Isaac exhaled once. Brotherhood restored. At least partially. Because rivalry is temporary. Blood is permanent. And neither of them would ever again underestimate how quickly ego could cloud judgment. Weeks later, Euclid Avenue buzzed as usual. Riley walked slower now. More careful. Less calculated. The game she thought she was controlling had backfired. Not with scandal. Not with revenge. But with clarity. She had confused attention for power. And selection for security. And now. She understood something she hadn't before. You can't juggle kings and expect not to drop the crown. And that's how two billionaire brothers discovered they were dating the same woman. Only to realize neither of them was the father. If you made it this far, you're officially part of the inner circle. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story. And tell me in the comments. If you were Julian or Isaac, would you have handled it differently? Or was walking away the real power move?